Discover the incredible hidden truth, how a poor girl inspires a billionaire's son to overcome perceptions of privilege. In a small town where dreams seem as distant as stars tucked away behind clouds, Meg carries burdens that her frail shoulders can barely support. At just 17, her weary eyes mirror the exhaustion of a life spent juggling multiple jobs: waitressing, babysitting, and cleaning just to keep food on the table for her single mother. They live in a creaky old house with peeling paint, but every creak reminds Meg how hard her mother works to keep their lives intact. Each day, she rises before dawn, a fierce determination lighting a fire in her heart, fueled by an unwavering hope that screams, a brighter future is waiting. Then, the world shifts on its axis. Carter, the rebellious son of a billionaire, rolls into town with all the fanfare of a summer storm, but he feels like a fish out of water. He sports designer clothes, but they do little to shield him from the weight of his father's relentless expectations. The contrast between him and Meg is like night and day. While she navigates life with resilience, he stumbles through it, grappling not just with wealth but with identity, lost in a place where privilege seems to choke every breath. At the community event in the local park, a stage set for unity, chaos brews, and destinies collide. Meg stands resolute, organizing food drives and volunteering at shelters, pouring her heart into giving back. Carter watches from a distance, admiration growing with each selfless act she performs. Who is this girl? He wonders, deeply captivated. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the day unfolds, sparks of connection ignite. Yet, an unseen barrier looms over them: the heavy hand of Carter's father, a titan of industry who sees Meg as a threat to his carefully crafted image of privilege. Stay away from the locals, Carter, he warns. But as pressure mounts, Meg grows emboldened, confronting fears that prick at her heart. In a moment that feels electric, she challenges Carter's father in front of the community that raised her. Hard work doesn't define our worth, it reveals our hearts, she asserts, her voice unwavering, echoing through the park. The crowd buzzes with anticipation, each word igniting hope, and perhaps rebellion, allowing Meg to feel both powerful and vulnerable. As Meg's words settle like a charged cloud, both teenagers stand at a crossroads. The tension between them, the social class divide, and familial expectations morph into heavy questions that linger. Can they bridge this divide? Can Meg step into the world of wealth without losing herself? Will Carter defy his father's shackles? As they gaze towards a future intertwined with uncertainty, the vast possibilities of their budding friendship glimmer in the air, leaving transformation tantalizingly close yet infinitely far. Carter feels a storm brewing inside him. He has never faced his father so directly, but Meg's words have lit a spark. It stirs something he buried deep under layers of designer suits and manicured lawns. He looks over at her, a beacon of strength against the backdrop of timid townsfolk who seem to hold their breath, waiting for the aftermath of her boldness. The community's buzzing whispers feel electric, flickering with intrigue and admiration. A local girl standing against a titan. Yet, the looming shadow of Carter's father remains. The way he looms, arms crossed, glaring like a hawk, makes it clear this moment could have consequences. Carter's heart races. What if his father punishes her? What if this chance encounter leads to more than just drawn lines between classes? As Meg turns away, her cheeks flushed, Carter steps toward her. Finally, he finds the courage to close the distance that seems to stretch between their worlds. "You were incredible," he breathes, his voice halting but sincere. She glances back, surprised he, of all people, noticed her. His vulnerability tugs at her heart. "Thanks," she replies softly, the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. But I'm just tired of being told what I can and cannot do. For what it's worth, he pauses, the weight of his upbringing crashing against the words. I wish I had your strength. Meg narrows her eyes, an eyebrow raised in disbelief. You have strength, you just don't know it yet, she challenges, her spirit unyielding. You're a part of this community now too. Don't let your father's expectations chain you. Carter blinks, a flicker of understanding crossing his features. Maybe he does have that strength, buried under the pressure of always being the perfect son. As if sensing his internal struggle, Meg's expression softens, and a moment of silence wraps around them. It's charged, pulsating, the weight of unspoken words hovering in the air. Just then, a burst of laughter draws their attention. A few friends, dressed in their Sunday best, approach, giggling at the spectacle they had just witnessed. They're familiar faces to Carter but strangers to Meg. They pull him away, their light-hearted taunts and playful nudges grounding him back to reality. He feels pulled in two directions and glances back at Meg, who stands firm, her hands on her hips, a quiet strength radiating from her. The laughter fades as Carter's gaze lingers on Meg. She stands tall amidst the chaos, a beacon of resilience that beckons him. But the distance between their worlds feels daunting. Could he truly step out of the gilded cage his father built for him? The aura of potential hangs thick in the air, but reality soon intrudes. His friends are beckoning him toward the car, ready to leave, and he feels the familiar pull of privilege tugging at him once more. As he walks away, he feels a knot in his stomach brought on by the pull of his father's expectations and the nagging desire to explore this connection with Meg. Carter. Her voice suddenly calls out, echoing back to him. He turns, eyebrows raised, half expecting his father's looming disapproval in her eyes. Instead, he finds a glimmer of hope there, an invitation. Meet me at the old diner tomorrow after school, she says, urgency layered in her tone. We can figure this out together. Her words ignite a whirlwind of thoughts. What if he could bridge the gap? What if he could redefine what it means to be himself, without the weight of family legacy steering his choices? Okay, he replies, his heart racing. I'll be there. As he walks away, his heart pounds louder than the voices around him, wrestling with excitement and apprehension. Would he dare to defy everything he knows for a chance at something real with Meg? Tomorrow feels like a leap into the unknown, and for Carter, the thrill of stepping into the uncharted territory could finally free him from his gilded cage. But as he drifts into thought, one question looms: is he brave enough to take that first step? The air thickens with anticipation, and the stage is set for transformation. In a world ruled by privilege, could their friendship become the catalyst for change, or would it all come crashing down before it begins? Carter's night turned into a restless mix of hopes and doubts. He tossed and turned in bed, the clock ticking away the hours, each minute drawing him closer to that diner. The image of Meg lingered, her fierce spirit unwavering despite the weight of her reality. Could he really walk into that diner, past the walls built by his father's expectations and societal norms? Morning dawned, bathing his room in soft light that seemed inviting yet intimidating. He dressed slowly, his hands trembling slightly as he pulled on a simple shirt and jeans far removed from the tailored suits his father insisted on. It felt good to wear something that wasn't dictated by someone else's image of him. As he drove to school, the familiar streets felt foreign. The trees lining the road and the quaint houses he had grown up in were now just symbols of a life he was beginning to question. With each turn, anticipation churned in his stomach. He kept replaying Meg's words in his mind, her gritty determination igniting a fire inside him. He pulled into the school parking lot and spotted her sitting on the edge of the diner's patio, legs swinging, her hair catching the sunlight. She looked both anxious and hopeful, a contrast to the bravado she displayed yesterday. Carter parked and swallowed hard, pushing open the door. The bell chimed as he entered. The smell of coffee and syrup filled the air, reminding him of simpler times spent with friends. But today was different. Today would be about breaking free, pushing through the comfort of what he knew. Hey, he said, seeking her gaze. Hey! She replied, standing up straight, her excitement palpable. She motioned to the empty seat across from her, and as he sat down, something inside him felt lighter. So what now? She asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. I guess we figure out what this is, he said, his heart racing. What do you want? Meg leaned closer, a serious look crossing her face. I want to change things. This town could use a shake-up. And you? You want to break free, right? You want to be more than just Carter, the billionaire's son. Her words struck a chord deep within him. He wanted to scream out a resounding yes, but doubt crept back in. What if my father finds out? What if he? Carter, she interrupted, her voice steady. You need to stop worrying about what he wants. This is about you. You can't let anyone else dictate your path. Trust me, if you stay scared, you'll stay trapped. He met her gaze, and in that moment, he felt seen. Not as the perfect son or the wealthy heir, but as Carter, a person with dreams and fears. You're right, he admitted, the weight of the truth settling in. I'm tired of being scared. Meg smiled, and in her expression, he saw the spark of a revolution that could start with them. Then let us make a plan. We can tackle everything together. Take small steps, and I'll be right there with you. Their conversation flowed, ideas bouncing off each other like the sunlight dancing on the diner's window. They talked about community outreach, bringing the townsfolk together, and challenging the status quo. Every word felt like a building block towards freedom. As the conversation deepened, a flicker of doubt edged in. What if all of this was just a fantasy? But as Meg animatedly spoke, he realized something monumental. This wasn't just a dream, it was a possibility. But the world outside didn't stand still. As they planned, a familiar figure appeared at the diner's entrance. Carter's heart dropped as he recognized his father, striding in like a force of nature. Carter. The voice cut through the air, heavy and demanding. Panic surged through him, dread pooling in the pit of his stomach. All the hope he felt moments ago was threatened by the cold reality of his father's presence. What would he say? What would happen if his father knew? Would this moment of courage slip away in the blink of an eye? Carter's mind raced. Would he let the fear of his father's reaction dictate his future? The stakes had never felt higher. And as he turned back to Meg, he knew he had to make a choice. Would he follow his heart or return to the life scripted for him? The air between them crackled with tension as his father approached, and the weight of his decision hung heavily in the air. What would he do next? Carter's heart raced as his father made his way to their table. The usual calm facade of the diner seemed to melt away, replaced by an oppressive tension that swirled around them. The smell of coffee and frying bacon felt suffocating. Carter, his father boomed again, each syllable heavy with authority. What are you doing here? This isn't where you belong. Carter's fingers tightened around the edge of the table. Meg stayed silent, eyes darting between them, unsure how to handle the unfolding drama. Carter wanted to say something bold, to stand up against the tide that was his father's expectations. But the words stuck in his throat. We're just discussing school projects, he finally managed, the lie tasting bitter on his tongue. His father's gaze narrowed, assessing. School projects? In a diner? You should be networking with people from your circle, Carter. This isn't the way to build connections. Meg's expression shifted from uncertainty to a newfound fierceness. He's building connections here. With people who matter, she said defiantly. This town needs a voice, and he's willing to be that voice. Carter's breath caught. There it was, Meg was speaking for him, standing up to a man who loomed so large over his life. It was both terrifying and empowering. Who are you? His father spat, disbelief curling his lip. This isn't your place. You should know better. What's wrong with wanting to make a difference? She leaned forward, her eyes flashing with conviction. Carter can be more than just your son. He can be a part of something real. The silence that followed was deafening. It felt like the entire diner was holding its breath. Carter could hear the quiet murmurs of patrons, their curious glances piercing through him. He never wanted this moment to be so public, yet Meg had inadvertently made it so. His father's face reddened, anger threading through his features. You won't win him over with some whimsical idea of community service. You don't know who you're messing with, girl. But at that moment, Carter felt a shift inside him. For too long, he had allowed fear to guide his decisions. But here was Meg, not backing down, and for the first time, he didn't want to disappear into the shadows of his family legacy. There's more to life than wealth and status, Carter said, his voice stronger than he felt. This isn't just about you and your expectations. I want to create something real, something that matters. His father's shock morphed into disbelief, then simmering anger. You think you can just rather be a part of something genuine than a puppet in your life? Carter cut in, surprising even himself. The words hung in the air, palpable and raw. The diner felt alive with possibility, a grounding force against the storm brewing between them. Meg's smile wrapped around him like a warm blanket. Yes. That's it. Her enthusiasm sparked a light in him. He wasn't alone. But the defiance in Carter's heart was met with a chilling response. I built this family's legacy. His father thundered, fists clenched at his sides. You will respect that, Carter. With each word, the walls around Carter came crashing down. Suddenly, it was clear it wasn't just about him anymore. This was about everything he wanted to stand for, everything he wanted to change. But at that moment, he felt exhilarated and terrified all at once. And yet, as his father's shadow loomed closer, Carter was faced with an even bigger choice: a reckoning with the life he had always known versus the life he dared to dream. Was he ready to face the full force of his father's wrath in pursuit of his truth? The weight of the choice pressed heavily on him, but something had shifted. Perhaps it was the realization that he held power over his own narrative after all. His father's presence was an impending storm, and as he braced himself for the impending fallout, he knew he had to stand firm. What happens when family loyalty clashes with personal freedom? Carter could feel everything hanging in the balance as uncertainty gripped his heart and mind. Would he seize this moment? Or would fear once again tighten its grip? Carter's heart pounded as he stared into his father's eyes, a mixture of determination and fear swirling within him. His father's rage was like a thunderstorm ready to unleash its fury. The diner grew silent. Every eye was on them, every ear tuned in to witness the unfolding drama. Do you even hear yourself? His father hissed. You're throwing away everything I've worked for. Do you want to be a nobody? A failure? The words sliced through him. Nothing felt worse than that sting. I don't want to be a nobody. I want to be myself, Carter shot back, his voice louder now, fueled by a fire he didn't know existed within him. Meg leaned closer, her hand brushing against his. It grounded him. Carter is right. You're too busy living in the shadow of wealth to see the value in real connections. His father took a step back, taken aback by Meg's audacity. You should stay out of this, he warned, pointing a finger at her. This is a family matter. You're right, she said, her voice steady and fierce. And that family matter is hurting him. You're more concerned with appearances than with who he truly is. Carter felt something shift in the air. It wasn't just his father's anger anymore. It was also confusion, and maybe, just maybe, a hint of doubt creeping into the older man's defenses. For the first time, he saw a crack in the typically impenetrable facade. What do you want, Carter? His father asked, sarcasm dripping from his tone. To wash dishes in this diner when you could be dining with people who are actually successful? Carter squared his shoulders. Success isn't just about money or status. It's about making an impact. This place, these people, he gestured to the diner patrons, some now openly watching with interest, they matter. They deserve someone who fights for them. Chuckles and whispers peppered the air, a gentle wave of support building among the onlookers. A waitress paused with her tray, glancing over, her eyes bright with encouragement. The tension felt less suffocating now as an unexpected energy pulsed in the room. His father's expression twisted into disgust, but there was something else. Fear. Concern. "You foolish boy, you'll regret this," he warned, trying to regain control of the situation. But it was slipping away from him. "No," Carter said, his voice clear. "I won't regret doing what's right. And if that means disappointing you, then maybe that's something I need to accept." The world seemed to hold its breath. The clinking of forks and spoons faded as the gravity of Carter's words settled in. "Are you truly prepared to cut ties?" His father's voice dropped to a near whisper, revealing a sliver of vulnerability that cut deeper than any threat. Carter faltered for just a moment, feeling the weight of years wrapped around his heart. But something stronger pushed him forward. "I'm prepared to live my truth." Finally, seeing no way to back down, his father's face hardened. "You'll strangle our family's legacy," he spat, eyes narrowing. Meg squeezed Carter's hand tighter as a wave of uncertainty washed over him. Would he be able to maintain his resolve when confronted with the consequences? The thought of losing his father's approval was daunting, but gaining his own self-approval felt even more crucial. Then, something unexpected happened. The crowd started to clap softly. First one hand, then another joined in until the sound grew into a full wave of support. Carter looked around, astonished. Despite the warmth of the moment, the reality still loomed. "You think this makes you a hero?" His father hissed, stepping forward, chest heaving with anger. "It doesn't. It makes you a disappointment in front of your family, your business." In that moment, Carter realized he was no longer just fighting for himself. He stood for everyone who had felt small in the presence of authority. The diner, with its normalcy and grit, had become a battleground for hope and change. "I'm not here to impress you," Carter said, feeling an unexpected surge of energy rise in him. "I'm here to find out who I really am. And I'm sorry, but I'll be damned if I let you take that from me." The applause crescendoed, lifting his spirits, but his father wasn't finished yet. "We'll see who prevails. You think this is your choice?" "I know it is," Carter replied, standing taller. But even as he remained firm, doubt curled in the corners of his mind. The consequences of his rebellion loomed ominously, threatening to eclipse this moment of triumph. With the room erupting around him, Carter's thoughts raced. Would this be the turning point he needed, or simply the spark that ignited a worse fire? As the diner filled with clapping and cheers, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. How far would his father go to reclaim control? More importantly, what would Carter be willing to fight for when the storm truly hit? Carter's heart raced as the clapping faded into whispers. He still stood there, shoulders back, eyes steady, but the weight of his father's fury bore down on him like a leaden cloud. The cheers began to intertwine with soft murmurs of concern. Was this rebellion really worth the cost? His father, arms crossed and jaw tense, seemed to swell with indignation. "You think this makes you brave?" he hissed, eyes narrowing. "This is nothing but childish folly. You'll see how the world treats failures." Carter swallowed hard, the bile of doubt growing thicker in his throat. The faces around him, once encouraging, now shifted into a mosaic of uncertainty. What if he had miscalculated? Anger boiled in his father's eyes, and he could feel the relentless tide turning back toward fear. Behind him, Meg watched with a mixture of admiration and worry. She understood him like few others did. They had shared dreams in the depths of night, promises of a life beyond the shadow of wealth. But was that dream strong enough to withstand the storm? "People evolve," Carter said, finding strength in his voice. You can't expect me to fit into a mold that doesn't even represent who I am. A waitress approached, eyes filled with a strange combination of respect and sadness. You're so brave, she whispered, before retreating. Carter's chest tightened. He didn't want to be brave all alone. He wanted change, for everyone who felt the way he had stuck, trapped in expectations that felt like chains. However, was that desire robust enough to shake the foundations of his family's legacy? His father stepped closer, voice low, more menacing than before. You think leaving this business will set you free? You'll have nothing. You're nothing without me. Carter felt his legs tremble. The words sliced through the air, threatening to undo him. Maybe nothing is better than being a disappointment. A mix of gasps fluttered around the diner. The applause had fizzled out, replaced by a tense quiet as the patrons processed the raw emotion hanging between the three of them. Was it really true? Was he nothing without his father? The thought tangled around his mind like a creeping vine. In that charged moment, he saw the flicker of self-doubt in his father's eyes, a flame that hadn't flickered there before. Do you really believe you can outrun who you are? The question hung, heavy as lead. But Carter did believe. He clenched his fists, feeling the heat rise within him again. I believe I can create something real, something meaningful. It starts here. It starts with me. Echoes of previous fights, whispered arguments late into the night, everything came crashing down. His father's insistence on legacy and perfection clashed with his own burgeoning desire for authenticity and connection. What's left of this legacy if you are not happy? He challenged, the words tasting both bitter and sweet. There was a different ring to that question, one that shifted something within the diner's atmosphere. He felt the eyes of the patrons press on his back, lending him strength. His father recoiled but then smirked, pulling at the strings of control he still thought he possessed. You'll regret turning your back on your family. Watch how they'll abandon you once they see the truth. That threat struck harder than any prior word. Carter's breath caught in his throat. Suddenly, he too felt the gaping abyss of what it meant to choose his own path. What if his friends turned away? What if he truly stood alone? But as he looked at Meg, a steady resolve filled him. She had come alongside him, drawn into this messy battle, ready to face the fray. She embodied everything he fought for: honesty, heart. I won't run away, he announced to the diner, though his voice trembled. I'm ready to stand my ground. In the sudden quiet, a new noise broke through, something low and rumbling, but it was not fear or apprehension. It was hands clapping again, tentatively at first, then gathering momentum, filling the diner with thunderous applause. As the noise washed over him, Carter felt a flicker of hope kindling in the pit of his stomach. It was uneasy yet exciting. But just as quickly as it ignited, another thought crept in: was this the support he yearned for, or simply the calm before a more dreadful storm? The diner filled with the noise of encouragement, yet Carter's heart remained heavy with uncertainty. What future awaited him if he truly walked away? The faces of his neighbors shone as they cheered, but would they stand vigil when the backlash came? He looked back at Meg, her eyes sparkling with an understanding that didn't need to be spoken aloud. They were about to step into an unknown, and as every cheering voice in the diner faded to a hum, one burning question remained: would love and conviction be enough to forge a new legacy, or would he lose everything he held dear? Carter stood in the diner, the applause reverberating in his ears but failing to fully alleviate the heaviness in his heart. The faces around him, filled with tentative support, began to blur as anxiety gnawed at him. Each clap felt like a beat of a drum leading him closer to an uncertain future. Meg reached out, her voice barely rising above the clamor, trying to capture his attention. Don't lose yourself in this moment. Remember why you're here. Her eyes were steady and unwavering, a lighthouse in the gathering storm. He nodded, striving to embody the resolve he had just spoken. Yet doubt still clawed at him. What if the applause faded away, and he was left with nothing but the remnants of a shattering legacy? What if his father was right? The thought curdled in his stomach. As the clapping subsided, silence enveloped the diner once more. Carter's father, still simmering with a mix of anger and disbelief, took a deep breath, regaining his posture. "You think they're clapping for you? They don't know what it means to make real sacrifices," he said, bitterness dripping from his words. "You're just a child playing at rebellion. And mark my words, this childish stunt will come back to haunt you." The accusation was sharp, but Carter held his ground. "I may be a child in your eyes, but I'm not afraid to be honest about what I want. I refuse to inherit your battles anymore." The tension in the diner hung thick while murmurs began to ripple through the patrons, unsure whether to side with the young man fighting for his truth or the seasoned businessman who firmly believed in responsibility and legacy. It felt as if the very air was charged with their conflicting hopes and fears. Suddenly, Meg squeezed his hand, grounding him in the moment. "You've already taken the hardest step," she whispered, a mantra meant for both of them. "You've spoken your truth. You can't go back now. Trust yourself." Carter wanted to believe that. He wanted to take that leap into the unknown, yet the churning anticipation brought a shiver of fear. He caught glimpses of friends' familiar faces filled with a mix of support and concern. Would they stand by him as he ventured into a future far removed from the paths carved by expectation? In that instant, another voice cut through the tension, a soft but determined sound rising from the back of the diner. "You're not alone, Carter." A young woman, whose name he couldn't recall, stood up, her eyes shimmering with conviction. "We've all felt the weight of someone else's dreams pressing down on us." More voices joined hers, a chorus of encouragement bloomed, wrapping around Carter like a comforting embrace. The raw honesty of the crowd ignited an ember of loyalty within him. Maybe this could be more than a solitary fight. His father's face hardened, and for a brief second, everything felt suspended in time. Carter discerned the flicker of fear there, the fear of losing control over his son, the fear of being betrayed by what he had built. "Enough." His father's voice thundered. "You think this is some kind of movement? It's just foolish sentimentality. You'll learn the hard way that emotions don't build empires." Carter drew a breath, summoning the last of his courage. Maybe empires should be built on authenticity instead of fear. "If that's foolish, then I'll wear it proudly." The diner erupted, and Carter felt the rush of support both liberating and intimidating. It was this emotional swell, that surge of unity that could either uplift him or drown him in chaos. He glanced back at Meg, whose wide smile reflected the steadfast faith she held in him. In that shared glance, something shifted deep within him. The question loomed now more than ever: dared he dream big enough to embrace the life he truly desired, or would he compromise, resigning himself to a legacy designed by someone else? As the tumult of voices mingled with applause grew, the weight of the choice pressed heavily upon him. He was on the brink of something monumental, the world stood on the edge of transformation. But just as he began to think he could forge his own identity, a blast from outside shattered the moment, leaving everyone frozen in place. The diner's door swung open, and the face of a stranger appeared, a man with a determined look, as if he had traveled far to deliver a message. "Carter!" He shouted against the noise, urgency palpable in his tone. "I need to talk to you. It's important." Carter's heart skipped. The weight of his father and the cries for change hung in the balance. What could this stranger possibly want? And how would it shape the choices that lay before him? Carter felt the weight of the diner's eyes on him as curiosity mingled with concern. The stranger's intense gaze bore into him, demanding more than just a casual conversation. It was a jolt, snapping him back to the present. However, before he could form a single word, his father's voice cut the air sharply, tearing apart the fragile moment. "Who are you? What do you want with my son?" There was a defensive edge to his voice, full of the protective disdain that always surfaced when he sensed a threat, even if that threat was cloaked in mystery. The stranger stood firm, hands raised slightly in reassurance as if he were approaching a wild animal. "No harm, sir. Just a conversation." Carter, please. Carter's heart raced. He could feel Meg's hand tighten around his. What is this about? He managed, his voice thicker than he intended, laced with a mix of disbelief and intrigue. It's about your future, the man replied, his eyes flickering to the crowd. They were poised, waiting. More than you realize, Carter. He was so tired of others defining his future, but this strange urgency was different. It felt like a door opening, potentially leading him somewhere he had yet to contemplate. Carter took a step forward, the crowd parting like the Red Sea, their collective energy absorbed into the moment. What do you mean? This isn't just about your father or the applause that's fading, the stranger continued, his voice steady, inviting. You have a chance to break from the mold. There's a project, something that can pivot your life in ways you don't yet understand. It's bigger than the diner, bigger than the legacy you've known. Carter felt a pulse of energy at the mere mention of opportunity. What does that mean? The man pinched the bridge of his nose as if gathering the right words. I can't share everything here. But trust me, what's waiting for you will redefine success on your own terms. His father stepped forward, his jaw clenched. Don't listen to this man, Carter. This is nonsense designed to exploit your naivety. You have a duty to uphold our family name. But in that pushback, Carter sensed something profound, a chance to carve out his path right before him. Was he supposed to side with a legacy that suffocated him, or did he take the leap into something unknown? The whispers in the diner had grown muted, the patrons watching the unfolding drama like characters in a play. Some were hopeful, others, like his father, were apprehensive. You need to think about it, Carter, the man said, breaking into his internal monologue. This could change everything. What was the price of change? He looked at Meg, her expression a mix of excitement and caution. Could he trust this stranger? With his world already so unstable, what if this was another challenge meant to pull him under? What's the catch? Carter asked, his voice steady, intrigued but wary. There's always a risk, the man replied, a flicker of unease crossing his features. But the real risk is not stepping into the unknown and anchoring yourself to a life that isn't yours. Carter's breath hitched in his chest. He could feel the gravity of his choice gathering force. A spark of determination ignited within him. He was tired of being anchored, maybe it was time to sail. But could he truly abandon everything he had known? Think about it, the stranger urged again, and in that moment of utter uncertainty, the diner transformed into a battleground for choices yet to be made. The tension built among the patrons as he weighed the possibility against the risk. Moments passed like hours until finally, he closed his eyes, imagining a life carved out by his own hands, free from the burdens of expectation. When he opened them, something inside shifted. I'll consider it, Carter said, the words tasting both sweet and bitter on his tongue. But I can't just walk away. Not yet. Just as that thought settled, the door burst open again, and another figure stepped inside. This time, it was a familiar face, an old friend rushing in as if the world outside had come crashing down. Carter. You need to come with me. It's about your mother. A chill cascaded over him. What could possibly have happened now? The floor under his feet felt uncertain, and suddenly his choices began to weigh heavier than he had imagined. What truth awaited him that would turn everything he thought he knew upside down? Carter's heart pounded as he looked at his old friend, Thomas. Sweat dripped from Thomas's brow and his eyes were wide, imploring. The chaotic atmosphere in the diner faded into the background, it felt like he and Thomas were suspended in a bubble where nothing else existed. What do you mean? Carter's voice was barely a whisper. Your mom, she collapsed. I didn't know how else to tell you. The ambulance, it's on the way, but you need to come now. We can't waste another second. Every ounce of hope Carter had just felt unraveled. Reality crashed into him, sharp and painful. His mother. The woman who had always been his anchor. A flash of moments spent in her warm kitchen, the sound of laughter, and love rushed through his mind. What happened? He managed, urgency flooding every syllable. I don't know much. Just that she was at the community center, volunteering like she always does, and then Thomas took a breath, his own emotion brimming to the surface. They said she fainted, that she wasn't waking up. Carter, you need to hurry. Panic seized Carter's chest like a vice. He felt the eyes of the diner on him again, but this time they weren't just curious, they were concerned. For him. For his family. Meg. He called out, searching for her supportive presence. She had stepped back, her face pale, reflecting the stark reality of the situation. I have to go. I'm coming with you. She shouted, determination cutting through her fear. Carter didn't have time to reply. He bolted toward the exit, propelled by a torrent of emotions: fear, love, desperation. The friendly clatter of plates and animated conversations faded into a dull echo behind him. What if, he thought, fighting against the rising dread in his throat, what if I lose her? That thought was unbearable. The prospect of his mother, alone and needing him, he couldn't even entertain it. Outside, the air felt heavy, thick with the weight of uncertainty. The sky was a dull gray, mirroring his feelings. Thomas drove a little faster than usual, weaving through traffic like a racing heartbeat. I can't believe this is happening. Just get us there, Carter urged, pinching his thigh to stay grounded. As they turned the last corner toward the hospital, Carter's breath hitched. The parking lot looked full, but all he could see were silhouettes moving slowly in and out of the hospital entrance. He couldn't help but picture his mother's vibrant spirit fading into that sea of faces. Carter. Meg's voice snapped him back. What if what? He asked, nervous energy pulsing through him as he realized the enormity of his choices loomed larger than ever. What if this is your chance? Your mom always believed in you pursuing what you wanted. She's your heart. Maybe your choice today could help not just her, but you, too. You should think about what lay ahead. Not now, Meg. I can't think of anything but my mother. But the truth struck him hard. A life dictated by others' expectations seemed worlds away in this moment of urgency. He wrestled with it all, yet a flicker of the stranger's words sparked in his mind: options unseen, choices to be made. Would there be a future if everything fell apart now? As the trio dashed into the hospital, Carter's heart raced with every step. The sterile smell of antiseptic filled his nostrils, and the stark white walls turned the world outside into an unrecognizable dream. He could hear voices murmuring in the waiting area, parents comforting children, families praying. Hope and despair mingled here, each direction of fate pulling him thicker into uncertainty. What is happening? He murmured to himself, pushing toward the front desk. Carter. Meg's voice sliced through his chaos again. What if he turned to face her fully, feeling the swell of emotions brewing within? What if I can't change this? What if I can't say goodbye? What if stop? She interjected, her breath catching. Just promise me that if everything is all right, you're going to take that leap, the one the stranger talked about. As those words settled in the chaos of his thoughts, an echo of hope sparked in a deep crevice of his heart. Okay, I will. But with that promise hanging between them, they stepped forward into the unknown together, reality teetering a breath away. What lay ahead could unravel all that he knew, or perhaps open a new door, leading him into a life he had never imagined. Would courage come through at a moment he feared the most? Carter exploded into the ER waiting room, breaths coming fast and shaky. The sterile smell of antiseptic filled his lungs, the sounds of intercom announcements echoing as the reality of their situation crashed down around him. His mind spun with thoughts of what might happen next. Where was his mother? Did she know he was coming? Carter. Meg rushed to his side, her eyes wide with concern. We need to find out what is happening. He nodded, grasping her hand tightly as if she could anchor him in this whirlwind of worry. Thomas, still tense, led the way to the front desk where a nurse glanced up at them, a mix of practice and compassion in her demeanor. "Excuse me," Carter interrupted, swallowing hard. "I'm looking for my mother, Grace Morgan. She was brought in the eye." "I'll check," the nurse replied, typing quickly on her computer. The seconds spread out like hours between them, each tick of the clock amplifying the weight of impending dread. Then the nurse looked up, a gentle smile threading across her features. "She's stable now. You can see her in a few minutes, but she needs rest. Do you want me to call the doctor to get a full update?" "Yes, please. Thank you." Carter breathed, relief battling with lingering fear. Being stable was good, but he needed to hear more. As the nurse made her way down the hall, Meg squeezed his hand tighter, her empathy palpable. "You saved her, you know," she said softly, her voice like a warm light cutting through the shadows of his worry. "You rushed here. You're her strength." Carter turned, her gaze steadying him, and he felt a flicker of warmth grow in his chest. "I wasn't fast enough," he murmured, thoughts still racing. "What if I lose her, Meg?" "Don't think like that. She's strong, just like you," she reassured him. "And if this can teach you anything, it's that the time to choose your path is now. Not when you think you have it all figured out, but when it truly matters." He nodded, absorbing her words. Their journey had sparked something profound. In every fear, the one of losing his mother and the one rooted in following his father's expectations, he felt the push to embrace the unknown. Just then, they heard footsteps approaching. The doctor entered, a calm expression on his face. "Mr. Morgan," he began, and Carter felt like the room spun around them. "Your mother is going to be fine. She fainted due to exhaustion, but she'll need rest and some tests." Relief washed over Carter like a warm tide. "Can I see her?" "Just for a moment. She is sleeping, but you can be quick." The doctor turned back to the door, and Carter followed, his heart racing with frantic hope. Once inside the room, he spotted her lying on the bed, the beeping machines a constant reminder of her fragile state. She looked pale but peaceful, lost in a world that only she could navigate. "Mom," he whispered, kneeling beside her. "It's me, Carter." Her eyes fluttered open, and she blinked softly, as if remembering where she was. "Carter," she murmured, her voice scratchy yet soothing. "You came for me." "Of course I did," he said, tears brimming as emotions bubbled to the surface. "I love you. You scared me." "I'm sorry," she replied, a warm smile breaking through the weariness. "You have a light in your heart, my boy. Remember to shine it bright." Her words were like honey, sweet and heavy. In that moment, with the reality of her existence in front of him, Carter felt the weight of his decisions shift once more. He needed to choose himself just as she had always encouraged him to. "I'm ready to step out into the world, Mom. Ready to fight for what matters," he whispered, holding her hand tightly. "I know you are," she smiled, her voice barely a whisper now. "You're stronger than you think." As moments passed, something profound settled in him. The return to normalcy was on the horizon, but returning to life as expected was no longer an option. He had the chance to reimagine what legacy meant, to live authentically without fear of what others might think. When he stepped back into the waiting room, Meg was there waiting, her expression a mixture of hope and concern. "How is she?" "She's going to be okay," he replied, the glow of relief coloring his voice. "That's wonderful," she exclaimed, beaming at him. "Now, about your next steps." Carter took a deep breath, feeling every bit the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "You know what? I'm ready to chase my dreams. This moment has shown me what matters." Meg's face lit up, her excitement infectious. "Then let us take that leap together. Let us make that project happen." Gripping her hand once more, Carter felt a renewed sense of purpose flood through him. It was time to break from the shadows and embrace the future, the one he would create with his own hands, against all odds. With resolve igniting a fire in his chest, he couldn't help but smile. Together, he affirmed, feeling the warmth of possibility bloom like spring flowers in the fading light. As they stepped outside the cool air, Carter couldn't help but think this was just the beginning of something extraordinary. This was their chance to inspire change not just for themselves, but for everyone around them. And he wouldn't look back. Now was the moment to leap into the unknown with the strength of those who believed in him, a world waiting eagerly on the other side. Chasing that dream, hand in hand, they crossed into their new beginning. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread this journey far and wide. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share the hope and inspiration. This is the moment to show your support. Join us on this amazing journey.